In today's project spotlight, I'm going to be talking about my blue and white Twinkle sampler quilt, what I made, how I made it, and what I learned. Welcome to Epida Studio. My name is Elizabeth and I help you make beautiful things with quilting, bojagi, and embroidery. So today I'm going to be talking about my Twinkle sampler quilt. So this is a quilt that I made a few years ago. And I love this quilt and I learned a lot when I made it. So this quilt is about 51 inches square and it's a sampler quilt. So that means it's made with blocks, but each block is a little bit different. So we can see that each block here is a star quilt block and it's made of all different stars, which is why it's called Twinkle Sampler. And I use 3 different fabrics for this quilt. There's the background fabric, which is a tone-on-tone kind of white or off-white fabric. Then I use this light blue fabric that's a tone-on-tone design, and then this solid darker blue fabric. Now, blue and white is a really traditional choice. Blue and white quilts are a classic option, and I really like blue and white quilts. But any quilt that's made with one color in white is going to look really nice. But I like how this blue and white turned out. Now for the back of this quilt, I actually had this old sheet that is in similar colors of blue and white. So I was able to use this for the backing. Now I know that's a little bit controversial. Some people don't like using sheets as a backing fabric. I sometimes use them, but I don't always use them. I think what you need to be careful with when using sheets is you don't want one that's really super tightly woven or it's going to be hard to quilt through. So this was an older sheet, so it already had a lot of wear and tear on it, and it was really soft, and I thought it would be nice to use, and it turned out that it would be really good. So don't just write off using sheets totally, but just be careful with what you're going to use if you're going to use a sheet on the background. So the way I made this quilt was first I made my 9 different star blocks, and these are all blocks that finish at 12 inches square. And I laid them out 3 by 3, but the blocks were laid on point. So if you see on the quilt, this is the actual block itself. So we can see that it is not square with the size of the quilt, but it is on point. And then there are alternate plain blocks in between. So that just gives a lot of definition. It sets off each star independently. They don't run together because there's a lot of empty space in between. So having these plain blocks alternating, it's an easy way to make a quilt bigger. And it also helps to emphasize your blocks. So there is no sashing in this quilt, there's no borders, it's just the blocks on point and then these alternate plain blocks. For quilting, I just quilted this in straight lines, and these are straight vertical lines. If you just look at the middle of the quilt, it might look like they were diagonal lines because the quilting lines are straight and the blocks are on point. So when you see the block, the quilting lines are going through the blocks from corner to corner. So quilting with straight lines is an easy but effective way to finish off your quilt. So what did I learn in this project? Well, this project was great practice for using triangles in a quilt because this quilt has half square triangles. It has flying geese, which is this unit here. It has quarter square triangles. In this one, it has split half square triangles in this block. So it has so many different triangle shapes. So this quilt was great practice for triangles. There's triangles of all different sizes and different types. So if you're interested in making your own Twinkle sampler quilt, I do have a pattern available, and the pattern has links to video tutorials for all of these star blocks. You could use online star blocks like I've used, or if you have one that you don't want to do, you can easily just replace it with a different star block. The fun thing with sampler quilts is you can add whatever blocks you want, and if you don't like one, you can just skip it. To see other quilts that I've made, you can check out my Project Spotlight playlist or go to my website, epidastudio.com.